We are going to officially get this started. Thank you, everyone, for joining for another month of housing discussion. We are fortunate this morning to have Pam Dewell, the Executive Director of Island Workforce Housing, with us. And she's down in Deer Isle, Stonington area, of course, and has been a great partner and has a bunch of knowledge about the relatively new Oliver's Ridge project down there. And there's the new project down in Stonington that's in progress. And we thought it'd be great for her to come on and just share um, her experiences about making these projects happen and any sort of other advice and information and questions that folks might have. And so she's graciously volunteered to talk about things for a little bit, and then we'll have some time afterwards to bring up anything else that might come up. So, Pam, I don't know if you have slides or anything, but you should be able to
I
share your screen if
do.
you need to. Okay.
Okay, great. I do have slides. I let's see. I think I still need to do the share thing, right?
You should be able to. Okay, beautiful.
Yeah. What? Sorry, guys. Okay, can you see this PowerPoint screen at this point?
We can.
Great.
And if you make it full screen,
Yep.
click on from beginning and you should be good to go.
Yep.
Yeah, great.
Great. Thanks. Thanks for the moral support. These things are always work perfectly when I did it myself, right? It's just
They always do.
whenever people look at your screen, you always make a million typos, for example. Anyway, I'm Pam Dewell. I'm the executive director for Island Workforce Housing, which works on projects here on Deer Isle, which actually has two separate towns, Deer Isle and Stonington. The mission of our organization is to create housing solutions here on the island that are permanently affordable to individuals and families working here on the island. I thought that I would show a quick video to give you some background about who we are. This organization met informally for years, maybe as early as 2016, 2017, 2018, when we added a board member who was a professional developer, and things really took off from there, as I think everyone would attest to. I think, it's one of the things about this organization that I find very unique, and I'll come back to that. But it's interesting because back in the teens and prior to 2020, there was not a lot of buzz about housing, and there was not a lot of discussion about the workforce needing a housing. I think we're all familiar with low-income housing and things that have been around for a long time, but the notion of middle-income people also needing a leg up is a pretty new concept. So this organization, before my time, I only started about a year and a half ago, um, did this video that I thought, really sort of set the stage for what has been a pretty successful operation. So it's about 4 minutes.
We're very fortunate to live in a very unique community. This place is exceptional. The fabric of this community is really looking out for each other. And I think that's what Island Workforce Housing is doing.
1/3 of the workforce that works on this island comes over that bridge every morning. They're all coming here and they're all leaving. We really would like them to stay and find a way to have them stay and be a part of this.
With the prices of land that have really taken off in the past year or two, prices of houses, it's just out of reach for most anybody who is making an average wage.
For the elderly, housing's not a problem. For the poor, It's not a problem. It's a problem for everybody that falls in between that just can't afford to live here. They can't. It's not that they don't want to, it's that they can't.
We've been very fortunate to have a place close by where we were to live. I can't imagine having to drive half 3 quarters an hour to go to work. A lot of people are.
This workforce, like I say, is the biggest hurdle we have right now. I mean, we're always looking for people, always. It's a scary prospect for an employer or just our whole society, whole community.
Housing is a huge issue for us at the school. I've had teachers who we've had move probably 3 or 4 times since I've been working there, which has only been like 3 years now. And they'll get a winter rental and then have to move for the summer, and then they're moving back into that winter rental in the fall. And that's exhausting, like moving all the time.
You know, part of what happens with people wanting to volunteer and to help in this community, when you're stressed out about where you're going to be living over the next month or 2 months or 3 months, it's hard to focus and be an integral part of the community.
Housing is something that has been a challenge for every single person that I've worked with, including myself and my business partner. My dad, Mike Wood, spent over 30 years in the public school system, and he really saw the need in this community for housing, affordable housing, for families, for workers, year round. And I think that's really what drove him to pursue this.
Keeping the community vibrant is crucial. It's absolutely crucial. And you do that with housing. We are now in phase 1, the first 10 units over on what's called Oliver's Ridge, which is on the Sunset Crossroad. All the site work is pretty much done with roads and parking and septic systems and concrete slabs. This first phase, they're 2 bedrooms, all of them. They're kind of side by side, so they're considered a duplex, so they each have 2 floors. They're only about 950 square feet. They'll be very energy efficient.
A beautiful spot, and it's going to make a beautiful community of houses.
These units are intended for nurses, CNAs, teachers, sternmen, carpenters, plumbers, electricians, all parts of the community.
I'm very thankful for something like this project because it will keep those people grounded here.
I talked to Mike Wood before he passed away, and I said, you know, what you guys are doing is great. But we don't need 10, we need 100. And he says, but we got to start someplace.
It's needed. It's really needed.
I really want folks to join me. This is a project that's worth getting on board with. They are trying to just maintain the integrity of this community, the demographics of our community. And this is important. This is really important. This is why we're here. This is why so many people relocate to this area. Let's just make that an option for everyone.
Okay, so I thought that the choice of people they chose to have in the video had a lot of impact. They were very well-known and influential members in the community, and I think it just created a very strong base for this organization to grow from. So formally incorporated in January of 2019. Site work began at Oliver's Ridge fall of 2020. These dates should also resonate with you because it's when COVID took off. So this building actually happened during the worst part of COVID. And even still, it was just about a year and a half, 18 months or so from start to finish, stick-built construction. The lease-up began summer of 2023. Different situation at this point. We purchased land in Stonington, about 7 acres on Cemetery Road in February of 25. The site work for what we're calling Thurlow's Way began this past summer. And the construction started just less than 2 weeks ago. And we are expecting modules from KBS Builders early December. So back to Oliver's Ridge, just because people wanted to hear about it. And, we are in our second year of leases. 27 and a half acres of land was purchased in partnership with the local land trust. It's right in the middle of the island. In fact, it was across the road from where I lived for about 10 years. So really convenient to get to Stonington or to get off island. It has 2,500 feet of frontage on what's called a grade pond here on the island. And the property was pretty much divided more or less in half, with the upland portion being retained by Island Workforce Housing for the Oliver's Ridge apartments. And then 14 acres is will be transferred as soon as we get past that 5-year mark to the local land trust, which intends to put a walking trail alongside the pond. Here are the duplexes completed. There's 5 buildings, 2 apartments in each. 4 of them have an upstairs and a downstairs. The 5th building actually has a handicapped accessible unit on the first floor. So it's an apartment on the first floor and then a second apartment above that. The buildings are very energy efficient. They are heated with heat pumps. They're all electric. Talking to tenants, I understand that their utility bills average about $120 a month throughout the year. And again, heat pumps, so electricity powered heat and air conditioning as well. At this point, Oliver's Ridge is self-sustaining. The way that the budget was constructed is such that the rents pay for our property manager, who goes and cleans filters on the heat pumps quarterly. He fixes things, keeps an eye on things, calls contractors when needed. Excuse me. And a portion of the rents each month go into a reserve fund for future repairs and improvements that might be needed. People are always interested in who works, who lives there. And in the past, when we began this project, it was to serve the school system, but also a nursing home that used to be on the island, which shut down during COVID, as many did. And interestingly, that property is now being developed for apartments for elderly people as well as workers, sort of a mixed community. But we've had, virtually a microcosm of the island in terms of who has lived there since opening. We do require people to work on the island. There have been several people who have left the island to work elsewhere. We've maintained a pretty steady waiting list. Even since the last lease up, we finally got to the last person on the waiting list, and we'll expect to go into another lease up period late winter, early spring for the Stonington project, as well as the project in Deer Isle. And I see an error on this. Oliver's Ridge is the project in Deer Isle, not Stonington. But here's who's currently living in the Oliver's Ridge complex. As you can see, there's a number of people that work for the schools. I was amazed at the income disparity for school teachers and ed techs. We do have a sliding fee scale. The rents, as you can see, range between 700 and 1,300. Actually, these just are in the process of going up 3% as we renew leases. But as you can see, very heavily school-centric, as well as three different food service employers have staff who are living in Oliver's Ridge, 44 North, Aragosta, as well as Stonecutter's Kitchen. So again, a huge range. So our next project is going to be called Thurlow's Way. Thurlow was the initial European resident that came to the island. It's going to be different than Oliver's Ridge in that we're going to have three buildings, each with 4 apartments in it. And if you noticed back in that other slide, you'll see that a number of the residents are just one adult. A couple are single parents with kids, but what we realized is that there were many people who did not, need 2 bedrooms. So this new project is going to have 6 1-bedroom units and 6 2-bedroom units. And as I said, construction just began. Here's the site. That cleared area on the left is actually the neighboring lot. Our piece is a piece not dissimilar in scale to what you see there, but to the right. So pretty much the area right in the middle of this screen is the acreage that we purchased. This was the first day of grubbing, roots and trees and branches. We had one guy come in and clear trees, but this was, picking up all of the residue from that and getting ready to begin the more formal site work. These surveyors are laying out the corners for what became the foundations. The woman on the left is Linda Campbell. She's the vice president of our board. She's also one of the founding board members. And her company, Due North, is one of the few surveyors in this part of Maine. Linda donates all of her time, her staff's time. She just does so much work for us, and it's really kind of amazing. And I think, I've worked in nonprofits my whole life, and one of the things that I find so fascinating about Island Workforce Housing is our entire board are also volunteers. I'm only part-time. We have a very part-time, 10 hours a week office assistant. Our property manager is on a contract basis, also pretty limited. We don't have our own office. We borrow a desk and some file space at Linda's office at Due North. We don't even have an office phone. If you want to call us, you get my cell phone number. So just very minimal expenses, very little paid staff time. And the board really function as professional staff. As I was saying, we have a professional developer on our board. He also taught development at MIT, interestingly. We have a surveyor, an architect, a lawyer, a physician, a couple of local business owners. And I don't know, they spend hours and hours every week, very committed. I apologize. So Thurlow's Way, the budget, $3.5 million. The land was 65,000. We had a donor who created an acquisition fund for us. So the idea is we will pay that back as we get the project underway or completed and start collecting rents. But that was a huge boost. The site work, probably about 5:48 at the end of the day. and construction estimated a total of 2,477,000. So where did the money come from? As you maybe all have been learning, there's very few sources of grants for anything that's not low income or under 80% AMI. So both Oliver's Ridge and Thurlow's Way are completely privately funded with the exception of two pretty small third-party requests from each town. We're very close to our capital campaign goal. So far, our budget for construction seems to be about on par. Peter had built into it a pretty healthy contingency, so I think we're going to be okay with that. So things seem to be lining out. So the formula for both projects is pretty much roughly the way I always think of it is 2/3 philanthropy, 1/3 construction mortgage, conventional bank loans.
What's where did that capital campaign really come from? Which philanthropists or how did you guys organize that?
It's pretty much people who live on the island, either summer or year-round folks. Some of them have family foundations. I think similar to your area, Deer Isle, Stonington has a huge mix of people. I mean, there's a lot of people who make very little money, barely,
Yeah,
minimum
yeah,
wage. There's also a lot of wealth on the island.
yeah, yeah.
But I've also been amazed at just how many people, $100 here, $500 there. But we've also received numerous grants from family foundations, well in excess of that.
Hmm. Okay. And did you guys approach them, or is it kind of just you started this campaign and everybody knows about it down there and they hear about it and want to get involved, or you guys go after them?
Yes, I mean, I think so. I've been involved in fundraising and nonprofit management a long time. Most recently, I worked for Maine Maritime Academy and their um, philanthropy department. I've also worked for the Opera House in Stonington, also as a fundraiser. And, I've been the executive director several times of different organizations, both in Maine and Wyoming prior to that. Fundraising is always personal. I mean, if you're just going to send out a mailing, you're going to get a lot of small donations, and you really need those too to sort of build that base of the pyramid everybody kind of thinks of fundraising as. But major gifts are the result of some pretty personal interactions with donors. Um, you've spent time cultivating them, getting them excited about what you're doing, sometimes taking them to dinner, bringing them down to the site and walking around. It's a process, and this and the success of this project and the fact that it's self-sustaining once it's completed is all about the private capital that gets
Yeah,
invested in it. So obviously a pretty small construction mortgage for the cost of the project.
yeah,
And it wouldn't be feasible without that kind of private money.
yeah. That's really impressive that you guys collected that much for this
Well,
project.
and it's happened so quickly this time. And, I think a big part of it is because Oliver's Ridge was so successful and we can point to it. I think it's also become very painfully clear to all of us that, you go into a restaurant and there's not enough wait staff. The doctor's office is always trying to get more reception staff. I mean, there's not one place you go to on the island that isn't really hurting for help right now. So we've progressed to getting the footings put in. This was literally yesterday morning. So it'll be pretty interesting. When I showed you that over that aerial shot with the cleared lot next to ours, we've gotten permission from those landowners to use it as a staging area. So it may be if we get, more boxes, as people call them, on site, we can store them there temporarily before setting them onto the foundations. So, yeah, this was yesterday. So stuff's happening quickly, and it's pretty exciting. So, any other questions? Anything else we talked about AMI. I think I told you that Oliver's Ridge is for people who earning between 80 and 120% of Hancock County AMI. Do you all know what I'm talking about? Or do you want me to? Okay. I think we may go up a bit on that for the Stonington project. We've talked about increasing that from 120 to 140%. And I would imagine, the Schoodic area, you must be getting hammered with short-term rental situations too, right? I mean, it's amazing.
Actually I have some, and they're seasonal houses, so they're not really I don't know that many have been converted.
Oh, huh.
But we're having a thing in Sorrento, and we found there's only like 14 in the whole town, and but I guess there's a lot more in somebody was talking about Goldsboro and Winter Harbor. I guess there's a lot more down there that
Yeah.
So
It's amazing. I was with a friend at dinner the other night, and it just seems to be increasing so rapidly. And we were at, one of the local places, and I was amazed that I didn't know anybody there. And, usually you would go someplace and you'd know 80% of the people in a restaurant or at the
yeah,
opera house or something. And there'd be, some 20% or so that were, people just there for the week or whatever. And that's totally flipped. I can't tell you how many times recently I've gone places and not known anybody
yeah,
there. I mean, they don't even dress like people on the island. I mean, they're so clearly
yeah,
not from here. And it's been amazing how quickly that has changed.
yeah. Well, the Maine Office of Tourism has been trying for a long time to, their destination management program is to get people coming from where there's too many tourists to where there's not enough. And I think, this area I think is in the not enough category because it's we're just starting to get a few good, restaurants and stuff where people can come and, have some place to go, and hopefully if their programs work, we'd maybe get some of your tourists and move them over here.
Yeah. Well, watch out for what you wish for. I mean,
Yeah,
here's the funky thing about this. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, we have great restaurants here. I mean, Aragosta and Pilgrim's
yeah,
Inn have both been listed in like top 10 or top whatever
yeah,
lists in the
yeah,
New York Times. And what was the other one? Food and Wine, I think.
yeah,
So we've got people coming from all over the country to go to these restaurants. But because so many of the summer houses or the seasonal houses are now also being used for Airbnbs when the people aren't actually here. And you can make a lot of money. I mean, it's also sucking up all of the year-round rentals because you can make 4, 5, 6 times the rental in a week. that you would for a year-round rental. So the tough part about it is, somehow we're going to all have to figure out an economic solution to that. It's not just, shaming people into thinking
Yeah.
they need to rent to a local. It's, we're going to have to really figure that out. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
And so the point I was going to make is, so great, we have all these awesome restaurants and they are killing themselves without people without housing for their staff,
Yeah.
both seasonal and year-round. So
Yeah.
many of the employers on the island are now they're buying houses and letting their staff live there. One of the restaurants has bought a few campers that they're putting people in at a campground.
Yeah.
It's a conundrum.
Yeah. A lot of the solution might be that you need to have suitable housing for, suitable ways to build things for both, and for
Yes.
summer rentals, they can be a certain thing, no insulation, whatever, and then you also need real houses for people. And
Yeah.
I saw that down in Goldsboro there had been a seasonal or a workplace housing uh, thing down by the cannery that somebody had just bought recently that had like 20 or 30 units, and it had been vacant. And I don't know if Josh, you know anything about that, about what was happening with that. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the modulars that were right on the hill
Yeah,
next to the cannery.
yeah,
I know a little bit about it. It was bought before the rest of the cannery was sold. Jackie, what, like about a year ago, that parcel was sold off. I think that was built originally for workers at the Stinson
yeah,
lobster thing, and I don't know what the plans are for it. But yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
think
not. It's kind of taken out of circulation as a possibility for other housing needs right at the moment. Is my
yeah,
understanding.
yeah,
yeah. And I think it was having some issues. I think there might have been some mold issues. I've been in those buildings and it's definitely not an appealing. It's sort of more
yeah,
sort of
Semi-temporary.
dormitory
yeah,
style
yeah, yeah,
housing as opposed to a place for
yeah.
a long-term worker or a family. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen those too. I mean, I think they'll probably have to be destroyed or whatever. But
Yeah.
I just wondered, that lot has a great, I mean, a huge septic system and the infrastructure there to build something like an apartment building, or somebody might want to build a hotel, but it could be a nice apartment building there, for workers or something to tear down what's there and use the septic system and all that, because that's pretty expensive to put that part in.
Yeah. All right. So while Pam's here, I'm wondering if folks have other questions for her. Josh, I saw that you asked what the square footage was for the Thurlow's Way apartments, if you know, Pam, the 1 and 2
Yeah,
bedrooms.
they're going to be, I think, just around 900 and a little change square feet. Obviously, the one bedrooms are smaller. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but I can let you know. Oliver's Ridge, they're all about 950.
For 2 bedrooms. Okay,
Right.
that's I
Yeah.
saw Jackie and I can't remember. I think March of last year we got a tour of the Oliver's Ridge ones, and those were pretty nice. So I was just wondering how the 1 bedrooms compared square footage wise. Yeah, but
I will get back to you.
just curious. Thank you.
They're definitely smaller, but I can't
Oh,
remember off the top of my head how
I
much.
bet they're around 700 or so, which would still
That
be
sounds
pretty
about
pretty
right.
decent size for a 1 bedroom.
Yeah.
People in
And
Manhattan would be envious.
I know, I think about some of the places I lived in as a young person out of school and, scrambling to find work. And this is a far cry from that.
Yeah.
I would gladly live in one of those apartments if I was looking for an apartment. The quality of the materials is I mean, they have granite countertops, high-end appliances. Peter is very adamant that, you buy junk and it's just gonna break down, and it's worth investing in good stuff because it will last longer. Somebody has their hand up. Bob?
Yeah. Go ahead, Bob.
Josh, did you have another follow-up question on that, or?
No, it's
Okay.
something else. So I can wait for after Bob is done.
Okay. Back to Oliver's Ridge. You mentioned that that will be transferred. The remaining land will be transferred. The 14 acres after 5 years. Was that to avoid subdivision? Was
Yes.
that the purpose?
Yeah,
Okay.
the property had already been divided a few times, and
Okay. So yeah, it was acquired with a division already in the past 5 years. So they had to.
everything is, yeah, and that happens next year. And we're probably going to go ahead and do the parking area for the trail, and you know, for all intents and purposes, it's a done deal. It's just that you know, needs to be formalized.
And then one other quick follow-up question. For Oliver's Ridge, I know I've seen it before, but how much did those cost per unit? Do you remember?
That's just what I was gonna ask too. What I was, I
Okay.
did quick calculations as we were going through the slides.
Yeah.
I excluded the land acquisition costs and put in the site work and the construction, and it was just over 3 million for 12 units, which is about 252,000 a unit.
Yeah, I think that sounds about I feel like it was 270, but I can look that up and pass it on and
Okay.
to Greg, and maybe Greg could distribute. So I'm gonna look up this, I will look up the square feet for the one bedrooms at Thurlow's Way and the price per unit for each. And, you know, the playing field continues to shift a little bit with tariffs and things like that. As I said so far, and the nice thing about buying modular units, you sort of are buying something off the shelf as opposed to, oh, this ended up taking, you know, a lot longer than expected, or we had this trouble, or that. So that price, I think, seems pretty fixed, but it still remains to be seen. And if you're wondering, it's not cheaper. It's definitely faster, but it's not at this time. It's not like it's going to be a lot less expensive. It isn't, at least if you buy a quality product. And if you haven't been to South Paris to their factory, you might want to take a field trip. It was impressive. You know, you hear modular housing or prefab or something, and you know, I still get this conjure of, you know, T111 on a trailer basically, and it's just not the case anymore. These things are amazing, and the guys build them in a climate controlled factory. You know, they're comfortable. The work is great. They use lasers to line everything up. These modules come with all the plumbing and wiring in place. It's pretty amazing, actually. I noticed that a unit in Rockland in a pretty fancy condominium recently was listed for, I think it was 900,000 that KBS had built the modules for. So it's a different world and worth looking at.
Yeah, before there's a question from Jackie too, but I was going to ask how you initially established that relationship with KBS and how that process worked out to, I guess, facilitate them constructing the units that'll go on the new property.
Well, once again, Peter Roth, who's also our treasurer, also you know, a founding member of the board, professional developer, started looking into it. And he and I, you know, he did a lot of research in advance, and culminating in the two of us driving over to South Paris one day to take a look at things. And you know, he is the program person. He is the contact with those guys. He basically has oversight of the construction, and we have a site manager down there, construction site manager, who reports to Peter essentially. So Peter's, again, back to this board really functions as professional staff. And Peter and during the site work phase, Linda, the surveyor, was also very plugged in and managing the work with the well drillers. Stonington has some real water issues, and they were concerned about was this project going to deplete their wells, and we're putting in our own wells and septic. We're just shy of the municipal ones on Cemetery Road, so we had to put in our own. There was concern that they may have an impact, so we ended up having to do a pump test to show that they didn't actually have any impact at all. We also had to do a hydrogeologic study, incredibly expensive. I think it was $30,000. Anyway, it's an interesting problem because they're currently losing up to 60% of the water they produce in their distribution system. So old pipes that are 100 years old, needing to be replaced, and a lot of leaks. So until those get resolved, I think it's always going to be a little difficult to do development in Stonington.
Yeah, I know they've had to get water tanked in for those reasons.
Yes.
Jackie had a couple questions, I guess, related to water and well and septic. Jackie, do you want to ask those?
Yeah, sure. On Oliver's Ridge, did you have one central well, one central septic, or how was that?
Two wells and one septic field and leach field.
Okay. And did you? I was on because Josh and I had gone to see them. Were the concrete floors what for durability and cost, or at Oliver's Ridge?
I'm sorry. Were they?
What was that intended for? Was the idea for durability and cost?
Yes. Also, I think concrete floors had a moment from a design perspective. I'm not sure people still think about them that way. I think we have very mixed feelings about them. You know, it'll be I think we're going to end up going with vinyl. Again, my apologies. With vinyl plank in the new place, but I'm not sure we've actually decided that.
By the way, it was really beautiful, so nicely landscaped. It looked great.
You know, back to the board, guess who did the landscaping? The board literally like dug holes and planted trees and shrubs and flowers. And last summer, they created a community garden for the people that live there, some of whom have been growing vegetables. Some people just put in cutting gardens. But that's been kind of interesting. But again, they could not be more hands-on.
And just one quick question too that I didn't put down here, but how long is your waiting list at any one time?
At this exact moment, there's 0 people on the waiting list. But we don't maintain an open waiting list because it's just, you know, stuff happens. It's so fluid, and you know so the way we do the lease up is we have a period during which you submit an application as well as a household income form. And so we have, so in the case of Oliver's Ridge, when it opened, the rents ranged between $700 a month and $1,300 a month. And we had a few in each category. I think at the time we just had one $1,300 and a couple of extras in the 700 and 850 or 825 slots. So we sort of sorted the applications into the apartments that would fall into the 30% of the household income range, thus making them affordable, and did a lottery. And you know, we kept going with the lottery past the number of units that we had, and we put those people on a waiting list. And we literally just a month or two ago leased out an apartment to the very last person on the waiting list. And many of them dropped off because they found something in the interim. But I was excited to have this one person come. She is a single mom who adopted her sister's teenage daughter after her sister passed away. And they had been in this house when they were sharing a bedroom. And I thought, oh my God, I could never share a bedroom with a teenager. So I was very excited to be able to help them out. And this island is so small. You must know this too. You know everybody in your community or somebody knows them.
And just one other quick question too, because I remember in the beginning they didn't fill up right away, and it was
No,
some people didn't even know they were available. So it sounds like there's a lot of education and communication that has to go on right up front
yes.
too, right? People maybe didn't understand how it worked or
All of the, I think you're exactly right. I think people were suspicious about it. They didn't understand why, they needed to share their personal income information. I think there were a number of people that were sort of calling it low income housing, which has this huge stigma. And, people were frankly too proud to want to be seen as accepting a handout. Um, and, people didn't know what it was going to be like. But in the last 2 years, so many of their friends and former neighbors or people they knew or worked with have lived there. And I don't anticipate that happening again. We get calls and emails all the time. Do you have anything available? And we don't accept their applications as they come. We just refer them to watching for the next lease up, telling them it's likely going to be in early spring and asking them to stay tuned. And when it happens, we will obviously post on social media. We'll do press releases in the paper. So, and everyone's just told, please keep track of the website. But things change so much. Everything that they would submit would probably be different by the time it came around. So for now, we don't accept applications outside of the lease up periods.
Yeah. So that's a great lesson for those of us who are just getting our toe into it, that the more information you can get out there, the earlier the better off you are, to address all these issues you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think that's why that video was so important. And again, back to who those people that were speaking on the video, they're all pretty much well-respected island residents, multi-generational in most cases. And even still, I think but the world has changed. I mean, in 2018, a lot of people were curious. Well, what does that mean, workforce housing? Oh, you mean low income housing? They didn't, it wasn't as acknowledged the way it is now. I mean, it's hard to pick up a newspaper without seeing press about housing right now and how it's affecting the middle class and, the middle income people. And people are becoming more and more aware of that. So, but back during COVID, especially, it was there was a lot of education to be done. It wasn't just, oh, we have these kind of apartments available. It had to begin with the whole thing, identifying the problem. And I just think that that's happening on its own these days.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
David tossed in the question, asking about if you had to pay sales tax on the modular homes that are coming in.
Are we paying it?
Yes.
Well, we have a tax certificate and use that for all of our purchases. We're a 501c3.
And I'm curious, I know you kind of came in at the latter stages of the Oliver's Ridge project, but what sort of, I guess, lessons learned, or were there any changes in how you went about the project in Stonington compared to how the project in Deer Isle went, and any adjustments that were made, in any
Well,
capacity?
obviously the difference between stick built and modular was a big change. And I think that some of that came from, I mean, I just bought a new house and I need to have a couple of stupid little things done. And I called the electrician and was told that Clay had a 4-month waiting list right now. And that was to just install a light and put in a couple of GFI things, right? So gosh knows what it would be if I actually had a huge amount of work. So subs are really hard to get on the island. The island-based guys are flat out. They are so busy. They don't have enough people. All they talk about is how they don't have enough people. So back to KBS and these modular units that come pre-plumbed, there's just a lot less dependence on local contractors for huge parts. So that changed. Deciding to do half of the units just as 1 bedrooms, I think, was the other significant change. Just a lot of the people being single and living. I mean, I would like the extra bedroom, but it may be more to pay for than if people, had a choice. Getting a 1 bedroom for less money would probably be an option people would like. So we were surprised just how many singles were looking for apartments, and 2 of our apartments, both restaurant people, 2 people that both work at the same restaurant, sharing it as roommates. So that was the other thing that struck us.
Any other last questions? We got a few more minutes.
I got to applaud you for doing this whole thing with that cold. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Thank you.
I'm so sorry to keep coughing. I ran out to do an errand this morning and meant to get some Dayquil or something, so I wouldn't sound so stuffed up, but I forgot.
Really impressive.
Yeah, well, as I said earlier, it's good that we're doing it virtually. I'd hate to be breathing this all on you.
If you can figure out a way to clone your board at some point, that would be great. They
Yeah.
sound incredibly amazing.
It would be great.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to tell you about that other than maybe just realizing that's what you need from the get-go and going and finding them, is there a developer that would be willing to help? Is there, and maybe it's a contractor, maybe it's but some people involved in the building trades would be really useful. And the developer thing is it's a little different. I mean, Peter's pretty aggressive about everything from negotiating our construction loan at the bank to haggling over contracts with people. I know there was a lot of back and forth with KBS about delivery dates, and as you might imagine, it gets a little complicated with our bridge because these things are big. So yeah, if you can get a developer, that'd be great. It's definitely a skill set that many of us do not have.
Yeah, I mean, you've also done a really good job tapping into their experience and their expertise and kind of using them as the most effective way as you can. So that's been really impressive too.
Yeah, and all of them are fearless about asking for money, I have found. And I've worked with so many nonprofits over the years, but this board is the most effective and fearless board I've ever worked with in going and asking for money. I mean, they think nothing about having a dinner party and shaking down all their friends that come and, telling them in the most earnest terms possible why it's important to support the project. And, you know, as a development director, you dream of having that kind of a team putting that together. And I think part of why they're so committed is because they're so hands-on and, you know, they just know everything about the project because they've done so much of the project, whether it's planting shrubs or, you know, we have the chairman of our development committee is a retired physician, and Sam hung all of the kitchen cabinets up in every apartment. So it's just really interesting how that happened. And the video talks a little bit about Mike Wood, and I think he really left his stamp on the organization. He was very much a roll up your sleeves and get after it kind of guy. And, you know, the culture of the organization remains that way.
Yeah, well, it's really great to see an organization making meaningful progress and fighting through the current obstacles that we all are experiencing. And so your presentation, everything shared today was super informative and very helpful. Maybe by some miracle you'll feel better by tonight. But we really appreciate your time, Pam. And if at some point you could shoot over the slides to me, I'll make sure they get distributed to
Sure.
everybody else.
Yep, I can.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, thank
Yeah,
you all.
thanks.
Feel better.
I'd love to hear more about what you all are working on too. So stay in touch.
Yeah, we'll definitely bring it back at some point, and keep you updated. And just for the group, we're not planning on having a meeting in December. There may be a meeting for the Blue Hill Peninsula area. We're still kind of figuring that out. And if there is, I can invite you all to that one. But the Schoodic group won't be meeting, I guess, until January. So until then, I'll be in touch with some follow-up from this meeting. And if I don't see you, have a happy Thanksgiving. Thanks
You
so much for
too.
joining us.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Bye, y'all.